You win this round, Tudor. I've been mostly resistant to Tudor watches. Since they returned to North America 9 years ago, Tudor has produced a lot of very compelling, very popular watches. Stuff expertly targeted at me and my demographic, and it became personal with me. Tudor's making some really appealing sports watches, mostly under $5,000 and with new movements, interesting tech, and with a hint of heritage. And the one that's called to me more than any other has been the Pelagos. A couple years ago, I reviewed the Blue reference, and I admit that it's hard not to appreciate what the Pelagos has to offer for the price, and we'll get into all of that. But I had a few issues with that watch and all Pelagoses, Pelagi, and I still have issues with this Pelagos LHD, and yet I bought it. So I'm going to tell you why I bought it, why maybe you should too, and also maybe why you should not. The what, the why, and the why not of the Tudor Pelagos LHD. The what? The Pelagos is a large-ish, very modern mechanical diver. It's 42mm wide, 14.1mm thick, and 50mm long. It has an unnecessary water resistance rating of 500 meters, but thank fuck it has a helium escape valve on the side. I don't know how I'd survive otherwise. It weighs about 150 grams on the bracelet and fewer grams on the rubber strap that comes with every Pelagos. It's so light for its size because the bracelet and case are made of grade 2 titanium. Inside the Pelagos is the in-house Tudor caliber MT5612. It has 70 hours of power reserve and is certified as a chronometer by COSC. This one is running only 1 second slow per day, which I somehow find more frustrating than if it were running 4 seconds fast per day. For $4,750 you get both the bracelet and the rubber strap, and a rubber strap extension for wearing over a wetsuit, or my swollen wrist in the Italian summer heat. Mamma mia. But seriously, my wrist is about 18 centimeters around, just over 7 inches, and I like how this wears. I also think it looks good on my wrist size. With a 50mm length, I think you can wear this on a much larger wrist, and you could probably wear it on a wrist as small as 6 inches too. The end links are female, which means the bracelet drops straight down, so if you're comfortable wearing a big watch on a small wrist, go for it. Ignore the internet haters, or as they are more commonly known, YouTube commenters. And that brings us to the why. I've been quietly stalking the Pelagos LHD since it came out in 2016, and after years of indecision, I told myself, if I see one in Rome, Italy, I'm buying it. I've always wanted to buy a watch on vacation, and this summer I took a big European holiday, and it just happened to coincide with the euro and the US dollar being equal in value for a very short period. And then take off the VAT? Shoot, I'd be losing money if I didn't buy a watch, am I right? I saw one Pelagos LHD in Rome, and I bought it. Since it debuted, I've thought that the Pelagos is maybe the best modern dive watch. It's modern in its watchmaking and in its design. I think Tudor did a great job with this watch. There's this acknowledgement of the brand's heritage, but without being vintage inspired. And the watch is forward looking without being kind of too of a time. I think this looks like a new watch without following fleeting design trends, probably. The bezel insert is an interesting example of this, a ceramic insert with fully loomed markers and numerals, and it has a matte finish. That's in opposition to Tudor's big sister Rolex, who I wish would try out a matte ceramic bezel. It's also in opposition to the aluminum bezel inserts in Tudor's more vintage-style watches of the Black Bay collection. Also, square markers with the snowflake hour hand, not round markers. This is the way. The case and bracelet are fully matte, ain't nothing shiny on this watch. Between that and the darker color of the titanium, this has a pretty tough tool watch look and feel, and that's true on the redonkulous bracelet clasp too. There are 4 on-the-fly adjustment settings on the clasp, about 2 millimeters between each, and in the 4th setting is a spring-loaded mode where the bracelet can actually grow with enough force. I think this is for wetsuits as they expand and contract underwater, but it could be used against the skin too. So between the clasp and the lightweight titanium, this is probably the most comfortable 14mm thick watch I've worn. The Pelagos clasp uses spring-loaded ceramic balls for friction, which should hold up better than fully steel or titanium components. Tudor might have the best little balls in the business, tremendous little balls. And why the Pelagos LHD? Simply because it's different from the standard Pelagos. What's different? Well, the crown is on the left side, hence the name LHD, left-hand drive, but also the markers are cream-colored as opposed to stark white. Not tan, just a warm white. The paragraph of text is still on the dial, but with the top line being red as opposed to white, I think the epic tome is more palatable. Plus it adds a pop of color. Okay, a watch review said pop of color, everyone take a drink. And matching that pop of color is a roulette date wheel. A roulette date wheel is one where the date wheel alternates between black and red text each day. I don't know why roulette date wheels exist, but all I need to know is that I like them. The why not? Let me gloss over the obvious why not. You shouldn't buy this because you don't need this, and you probably need to eat or pay for housing. I mean, I need it, obviously, but nobody else does. But specific to this watch, first, it's big. The dimension I have an issue with is the thickness, 14.1 millimeters. I wear thicker watches, so clearly this is not a deal breaker for me, but it's frustrating to know that this watch doesn't need to be this thick. It doesn't need 500 meters of water resistance, and it doesn't need a helium escape valve. This watch could be 12.5 millimeters thick, and I'd prefer that. Second, titanium is weird. Light, yes, great, but the edges of the bracelet are a bit sharp, and also on my precious, delicate skin, titanium feels sticky. It sticks to my skin in a way that steel does not. And the third why not is kind of wishful thinking. I really want to see an update to the Pelagos. I have no insider knowledge, but I'm hoping we see a thinner Pelagos or maybe a GMT Pelagos in the next couple years. Obviously that hope didn't stop me from buying this LHD, but if something more appealing comes out soon, I'll have to reshuffle my collection. But the why nots weren't enough to dissuade me, not this time, and I'm glad about that. I've really been getting a lot of enjoyment out of this Pelagos. Is it perfect? No. Is it worth the money? Maybe. Is there any other dive watch under $5,000 that's this good? Well, that depends on what's important to you, but there's a good argument for this being the very best. So stay tuned. My plan is to do a follow-up video after 6 months or a year of owning this. That's, if I keep it that long. I'm kidding. Or am I? No. Maybe? Okay, ciao.